Victims of domestic abuse are being let down, and there needs to be a sea change in the support they receive, St Helens area commander has said. Supt Louise Harrison was speaking at a meeting of St Helens Council's People's Board during a discussion about the authority's domestic abuse strategy. She told members that domestic violence is Merseyside Police's biggest risk area in terms of demand, severity and the impact it has on victims. The area commander also said victims often do not want to press charges. "We have a real problem here in St Helens in terms of persuading victims to proceed with prosecutions often," Supt Harrison said. "First, there's got to be a bit of a sea change really, because often the outcome is not what the victim wants. In terms of prosecution, it's another alternative option or a cluster of options. We are looking at it, we realize we've got an issue with it. I think with all the cuts as well, let's not beat around the bush, it's had a big impact on us and sometimes the prosecution." Supt Harrison said often cases do not make it past the Crown Prosecution Service. "Victims are let down quite significantly along the way with a lot of our services," she said. Domestic abuse is often referred to as a hidden crime as it goes largely unreported. The crime survey for England and Wales includes data from victims that have not reported. Based on this, the council estimated there are 4,800 victims of domestic abuse in St Helens every year. Approximately 3,800 victims will be classified as standard risk. Of the 1,000 high-risk victims, it is estimated that around 430 will be visible to services. The majority of victims identified as female, 74%. Supt Harrison said education on domestic abuse is a significant issue for the force, particularly with more recently recognized forms of abuse such as coercive control. "A lot of our victims don't actually recognize they're victims of abuse," she said. Since 2013, St Helens has delivered its response to tackling domestic abuse through a pan-Merseyside approach. Tackling Domestic Abuse, St Helens Strategy 2018 to 2023, which was approved in February, was developed specifically for St Helens and is intended to be the framework for all agencies to respond effectively to domestic abuse. Jeffrey Appleton, vice chairman of the People's Board, said he recently met with survivors of domestic abuse and crew. "Nothing brings you back to reality than meeting people on the ground using services and telling you how it is," he said. "I had 14 women describe to me their experiences. Saw the improvements in the criminal justice system but saw deficiencies in the family system in terms of lack of security and feeling safe." Mr. Appleton questioned how the voice of service users in St Helens was captured in the current domestic abuse strategy. Professor Sarah O'Brien, the Council's Strategic Director of People Services and Clinical Accountable Officer for St Helens CCG, acknowledged that the strategy does not do this at present. She said, "I suspect at the moment we don't capture the voice of the victims of domestic violence very well. The strategy will be subject to annual review and it is proposed that 6-month progress reports will be presented to the People's Board to provide assurance on its implementation."